In the autumn of 1942, the city of Stalingrad was no longer a city. It was a skeleton, stripped of its flesh by months of bombing, fire, and blood. Yet, amid the rubble, a quiet hunter emerged, a man whose rifle would come to symbolize Soviet resistance itself. His name was Vasily Zaitsev. Before Stalingrad turned him into a legend, Vasily Zaitsev was nobody. Born in 1915 in the remote Ural Mountains village of Yeleninka, he grew up in a family of peasants, hunters by necessity, survivors by instinct. As a boy, Vasily learned to shoot before he could properly write his name. His grandfather taught him to aim not at the animal, but through it, to see the stillness before the shot. His first rifle wasn't a weapon of war. It was a simple single-shot gun used for wolves and deer. But it taught him the virtues that would later define him: patience, calculation, and quiet death. When the Second World War erupted in 1939, Zaitsev served not as a sniper, but as a naval clerk in the Soviet Pacific Fleet. He typed reports, filed documents, a bureaucrat with a hunter's heart. But when Hitler's armies invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, everything changed. The Battle of Stalingrad, a name that would echo through eternity, began as a strategic objective for Hitler's southern offensive. For Stalin, it was personal. The city bore his name. Losing it would mean losing his image and perhaps the war. By late September 1942, the Germans had already reached the Volga. House by house, factory by factory, they advanced. But Stalin's order was absolute. Not one step back, and among the reinforcements ferried across the Volga under relentless German fire was Vasily Zaitsev, now a sergeant in the 62nd Army. The crossing was chaos. Zaitsev's first glimpse of Stalingrad came under moonlight, the river reflecting flames, the air thick with ash. German artillery shelled the banks, killing dozens before they even reached the shore. Boats capsized, soldiers screamed, and the water turned black with oil and blood. When he finally set foot on the city's shattered soil, Zaitsev later recalled thinking, everything was burning. The sky, the ground, even the river seemed on fire. I knew at once, this was not war, this was hell. The 62nd Army, under General Vasily Zaitsev, held only a narrow strip of land along the river, sometimes just a few hundred meters wide. The rest was controlled by the German 6th Army under General Friedrich Paulus, one of Hitler's most trusted commanders. The front lines weren't lines at all. They were buildings, staircases, even piles of rubble. Combat was face-to-face, sometimes separated only by a thin wall. Soviets called it Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. And in this war of attrition, snipers became kings. At first, Zaitsev was just another rifleman, armed with a standard Mosin Nagant. But soon, opportunity and instinct took over. One day, as German machine gunners pinned down his unit near the Bani Gully, Zaitsev crawled through the wreckage, located the enemy nest, and killed all three with 3 shots, each one clean, measured, deliberate. His comrades took notice. His superiors did too. He was reassigned to sniper duty almost immediately. But Stalingrad was not the open wilderness he knew from his childhood. This was a city of ruins, sightlines were short, every movement could be fatal. Sniping here was not about camouflage in forests, but about blending into the debris. A twisted window frame, a corpse, a broken chimney. Zaitsev adapted faster than anyone expected. He began building hidden sniper nests in impossible locations, inside burned-out factories, under staircases, in the shattered carcass of a tank. He trained himself to read the smallest hints, the flicker of light off binoculars, the ripple of dust after a breath, the shadow that shouldn't have been there. Soon, his daily tally began to rise, 10, 15, 20 confirmed kills. By November 1942, his count exceeded 200, but numbers meant little to Zaitsev. For him, each shot was a means to an end, to hold Stalingrad. For us, he later said, there was no land beyond the Volga. As his reputation grew, so did his role. Zaitsev began training other snipers, forming what would later be called the sniper movement. His recruits were ordinary soldiers, factory workers, clerks, even women, anyone who could stay calm under pressure. Among them was Tanya Sirnova, a young woman who had lost her entire family to the German invasion. Zaitsev and Tanya would form a bond both professional and deeply personal, though much about it remains shrouded in wartime rumor. Under his mentorship, snipers learned to work in pairs, a shooter and a spotter. They developed unique tactics, the stalk and wait approach, the false corpse trick, and the use of multiple fake sniper positions to mislead German counter-snipers. They became ghosts of the city. Zaitsev's unit began to turn the German advance into a nightmare. Panzer officers refused to step outside without helmets. German infantry feared to light cigarettes. In reports intercepted by the Soviets, the Germans began referring to Stalingrad as the city of snipers, but legends have consequences. By December 1942, German command had grown desperate. Rumors spread of a top German sniper sent to kill Zaitsev, a man known only as Major Erwin Koenig, or, in some versions, Heinz Thorwald of the Wehrmacht Sniper School in Berlin. The story remains debated among historians. Some suggest Koenig may have been a composite of several German snipers. Others believe he was real. But what's certain is this: around that time, Zaitsev faced one of the most intense sniper duels of the war. For days, German precision shots began taking out Soviet officers and snipers, one after another. Zaitsev knew immediately this was no ordinary enemy. He and his spotter, Nikolai Kulikov, began the hunt. They studied bullet trajectories, shadows, and timing, every clue to locate the Germans' nest. Days passed. Both men crawled through rubble, eating dry rations, sleeping in turns, never revealing their positions. Finally, Zaitsev spotted a subtle glint, a reflection from a damaged steel plate near a corpse. It wasn't random. It was bait. The German sniper had hidden under a sheet of iron in a destroyed factory floor, leaving a helmet or scope exposed to draw fire. Zaitsev waited. Then, a movement. A faint shift of light where the rifle barrel met the scope. Zaitsev whispered to Kulikov, "Now I'll draw his fire. Watch carefully." Kulikov raised his helmet slightly on a stick, a decoy. The German took the shot. The bullet tore through the helmet, but the muzzle flash gave away the position. Zaitsev didn't hesitate. He aimed through his PU scope and fired once. When they crawled forward, they found the German sniper dead. The duel was over. By the end of 1942, Zaitsev's confirmed kills had exceeded 225, possibly far more, depending on sources. He had turned the act of shooting into an act of defense, a symbol of Soviet resilience. His name was printed in Soviet newspapers, broadcast on the radio, used to inspire millions. But behind the propaganda, Zaitsev remained grounded. He still cleaned his rifle himself, still preferred to fight among his men rather than command from the rear. For him, glory was secondary. What mattered was survival of his comrades, of his city, of his country. Yet, as 1943 dawned, the tide of the battle began to turn. The Soviets had encircled Paulus's 6th Army. Supplies ran out. German soldiers froze and starved in the ruins they once conquered. Zaitsev, however, was nearly blinded by a mortar explosion, a shell that sent fragments into his eyes. For days, doctors worked to save his sight. Miraculously, he survived and recovered partial vision. By February 1943, the Battle of Stalingrad ended. The once invincible German army surrendered. Out of 330,000 men, barely 90,000 remained alive. And among the defenders who stood when the city was dust was Vasily Zaitsev, the man who turned patience into power. In the end, Zaitsev didn't win the Battle of Stalingrad alone. But his rifle became the voice of a city that refused to die. Each shot echoed a promise that even in ruin, courage can prevail.